This is the Enigma podcast for horror films, and today with me is Mr. Rajava.
Hey, hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we were doing this after a while, and today we're going to talk about the film Sinners. So, Raj, first on to you. We saw this movie about a month ago. I think we both had like different opinions of it.
Well, I mean, just on a base level, I thought it was an entertaining film. I think I was expecting a little more social commentary through it. I mean, they were definitely going in that direction. And then it just felt a bit like it maybe punted or it did what didn't really matter to the story, and that's fine. Like, I'm not saying every story has to be um a tackling of racial issues, but at the same time it felt like that's where they were going, that's what they were implying, but they just didn't want to say anything directly. It's a bit like, if you want to put it that way, it's a bit like Christopher Nolan with Oppenheimer. It's like, I'm not going to show you the really terrible photos of the Japanese bodies destroyed by the bomb, but I'm going to imply that it's there and really dark and bad, you know? So I think it felt a little toothless is a word I would use in terms of those sense. But the film was entertaining. Like, let me back up and say the film was really entertaining, and I'm really happy that it's doing so well. I mean, I'm looking at Rotten Tomatoes right now, and it did come out like a month and a half ago, 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's not usually heard of a modern day film, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I'm still kind of puzzled about the fact that, the whole concept of music transcending timelines and everything like that. When we got out, kind of like coined this idea to you where I thought that the guy who played the vampire was actually from the future or something, because he didn't mention in the movie that I want to go back to my time or something like that. And then there was this whole montage of like all these musicians from different timelines and like different times. So I'm just like thinking like, what was that all about? Have you been able to like kind of think over it, or do you have any different opinions of it?
Not particularly. No, I mean, I definitely think there's an element of again that kind of racial angle, perhaps for me, in terms of like going back to a time before, in this movie specifically, blacks had equality, or at least closer to equality before we got to the whole I think I'm pretty sure before we got to the whole like separate but equal time period, the Jim Crow time period. Like, I think it was trying to harken back to that. Like, I want to go back to a time before I had to deal with all this freedom bullshit.
You kind of see the introduction of the vampire. He just kind of pops out of nowhere. Literally, the first frame of his introduction is like he just kind of pops. He kind of falls from the sky or something like that. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't remember that. I do remember him being at the cabin. I don't remember quite how we got there, of the people who would eventually join his, quote unquote gang of three. Um, yeah, he goes and attacks that cabin family. Well, he pretends to be hurt and being chased, and he is being chased, I guess, by the Native Americans in that truck, who I guess know who he is, know what he is, and yeah, they go on, because I think by the time they come, the couple has already been vampirized, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, he does seemingly come out of nowhere. I don't remember him falling out of the sky, but I do remember him just being introduced quite abruptly.
But I think
Spoilers, by the way, to anyone who, like, we should have said this a lot earlier, but
we
spoilers, a lot of
should. Yeah,
spoilers.
spoilers, folks. So basically, like it starts off as a. That's what I like. Like this was a really Americana kind of movie, the kind of movie that we haven't seen in a long time. Because it starts off in 1932 after World War One, and I think it has a set like a southern setting, and from there it kind of progresses towards being more of a I think like a social commentary kind of thing. Like these two brothers of the African American heritage move to Chicago from the South, get into their own business or something like that. I think that's what they're trying to be like. Oh, it's like a transition from one location to the other, and it was really fun to like just enjoy the film for the Western setting or like just for the drama part of it. I feel like when it becomes like the vampire movie that it becomes, it feels like a totally different film.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree. I would agree. I mean, I'm not sure I'm as taken by that because it does seem like a large tonal shift, but they are connected. You know, it's like a B story that merges into the A story, which you know is valid and makes sense. So no distaste to that, but yeah, thinking about it as two separate movies does make it seem like well yeah, what were they doing? It almost ties into why they opened the movie with that kind of shaking, a very startling scene of the kid coming back with his broken guitar, and everybody at the church is like, you know, panicking, but you don't know what's going on. They're like, oh, don't go back to those people or whatever, you know. And that is because the next hour or at least 45 minutes of the film is just the two brothers kind of exploring Chicago and getting their I don't think it's a speakeasy. I guess it's a speakeasy. Getting their club ready, you know, for, you know, buying the land and this and that. So yes, it is a quite a bit of tonal shift, and I see now too why they did that, because they did need to tie it in to what was going to happen later. Otherwise, people are be like, "Oh, what are we watching? Two brothers start a business? Is that what this movie is?" But that scene at the very beginning tells you, "Oh, there's more. Something's going to happen. There's more to this than that meets the eye." I thought it was really interesting, though. I thought it was a great, you know, a great dichotomy to play, um, and you know, kind of the feeling of growth and change, and you know, we're gonna do this, and everything's happening great, and then you know, slowly the reality starts to set in of the, you know, you could call it the racial injustice, but in this case it's the vampiric injustice of the guys basically waiting for anyone to leave the club, and then they can vampirize them. So yeah, I thought it was interesting.
Especially towards the end of it, it kind of reminded me of The Lost Boys. It has all the traditional vampire movie tropes, or like the garlics and the stabbing and the invite. Oh, the vampire comes in when you invite it. But I particularly am a fan of the whole glowing lights kind of thing, like, or the lighting lights or whatever. Like they've got LEDs fitted into their eyes or whatnot, and they just kind of glow once you become a vampire. That was really cool. Like, yeah, whoever had that idea is like probably that was newness. I mean, it's not the kind of film, it's not the kind of thing that you've seen in a vampire movie in a while. And I do feel like the vampires in the movie look ferocious, fierce vampires, not like Twilight kind of stuff where it's just like, oh, you know, we go out in the sun, we don't really have vampiric teeth. We go out in the sun, we shine and stuff like that, and that's pretty much about it. In this, it looks like, oh, okay, there is that force of nature that cannot be stopped, and especially towards the end, it's just all over the place. And you know, it's like it was interesting to see. I don't know if you actually noticed this yourself, like from the time that when the first person, you know, gets bitten, or like I think it's Haley Seinfeld's character that get becomes a vampire first. From that point on, like the transition towards like everybody just kind of out and about and like fighting with each other and everything like that, that just happens like within minutes. So the pacing on that thing is like so on point when it comes to like transitioning from point A to point B, whereas a general movie would take like a while to like, you know, sort of like get to the sort of like the inciting incident. What I'm saying is, you see all these people that are like, oh, you know, we're already there. Like, you know, we've already accepted our fate. Oh, this is how vampires die, and like, you know, we're in the end game now. You know, that transition that I really liked about it. So I think like anyone at all who has to be like credited for this thing is like Coogler, because like just the man, the way he wrote things, it's like it's so fast paced. I think it's a long movie, but then it doesn't feel as long, you know, 2.5 hours almost. So
It is. It is. I mean, I agree with you one on the glowing eyes. I mean, what I appreciate too is it's pretty subtle. You know, they could have pushed it and gone more fantastic with it, but I'm glad they didn't, and they kept it very grounded, almost like looking like a small fire in the person's eye. Not like it's flickering or glowing, but just like that's the intensity of it. Not super heavy, but enough to know something's not right about this person. I did think it was a little long per se, but also I was very uncomfortable where we had seen it, so that definitely contributed to the distaste of the experience. But that is not that it's not the movie's fault. Yeah, I thought it was great. I did think it was a little. I thought it was a little draggy, but it it definitely. I think it just for me like it was. I think the problem comes for me is where it's like tonally between two films. Is like it is this kind of period piece about two brothers in a more segregationist time in America, but still finding their way in a positive way, and then changes to a vampire film, but doesn't really like close out the vampire side in a way that's like I don't know. It kind of lacks some excitement for me. Like I don't know. Maybe the lack of mystery. Maybe the fact that we knew they were vampires the whole time. Uh, Kind of took away some of the surprise of it, some of the mystery of it, and it's more just like, well, how's this horror film going to play out? Basically, how's the killer going to kill everyone, or almost kill everyone, and then get knocked out or whatever that horror tropes. So yeah, I mean, I think there's some back and forth I have with the film. Like, I thought it was a pretty, in terms of rating, like really good, and I'm happy it's doing well. But I give it like more of an average type rating. It's like an entertaining film. I wasn't like getting bored, but at the same time, it's just like nah, I maybe want to push something a little more, push something a little closer to maybe the like I say, social messages, or just lean into the ridiculous more. I felt like again walking that line between them, and it's like maybe you didn't hit either mark for me, anyways.
A big part of it was that the place we were watching the movie at, it was really like an 80s movie theater, and like the seats were broken and everything. So I guess I would understand that it would kind of ruin the experience for most of us. And I think like the aspect ratio was not really on point too, because it was like all kind of twisted and like kind of all over the place.
It was a quaint theater. I like it was definitely I appreciated the old school style of it, but I described it to somebody,
Mm.
and I think it's pretty apt. Is um, it's like the New Beverly without any of the charm. Because the New Beverly Theater, and I mean it's a Pasadena theater that looks like it's almost all white walls. Like I don't think they're hurting by me saying this, but like New Beverly, like they have old popcorn machine and this and that, and there's a nostalgic charm that they've decorated up and made it look like, oh look, this looks like an old timey theater. Wow, I really like that. And it's homey. It's got advertisements and things and all the things that feel like a movie lover's place to go. This theater in Pasadena just looked like it just didn't update since the 1990s. And that's fine too. There could be a charm there, but it's just like, nah, I just wasn't like I enjoyed the lobby, and then when I got to the seats, I'm like, oh, if you're gonna upgrade anything, how about these seats?
There's just like, oh, okay, so you bought your ticket. Here are your seats. Here's your screen. Now, fuck it.
It feels like it feels like a movie theater out of time. It feels like going into the past, but in a not great way, in
Not
a
fun.
not like very, yeah, unfortunately.
I know, like, because I remember I booked the tickets, and every theater was like kind of packed at that time, including the Vista Theater where we actually wanted to watch it on film. But this is the only theater that I think it was like in the nearby locality, which was actually showing the movie, and I was just like, let's just go for it. But yeah, I think when the film came out, it was really super like everybody wanted to watch it. So it's like, and I think the box office numbers also kind of imply that. So. Um, yeah, I mean, I mean, for me, just like as a horror movie buff, I'm happy that I'm watching a good vampire movie after a really long time. I mean, trust me, it's like, what's the last good vampire movie that came out? Definitely not Twilight, but what
Well,
about you?
Twilight's pretty old. Twilight's pretty old too. I mean, I'm sure some people would say Nosferatu, but I didn't like it. But some people would probably say it because I know it did pretty well, if I'm not mistaken. Um, God, what's a good vampire? I mean, like to be honest, I probably like the Gary Oldman. I forget if that's Nosferatu as well, or just called Dracula. I'm not sure, but um,
Yeah,
God,
Dracula. Bram Stoker's Dracula.
a good recent vampire movie. I'm sure there is, but maybe not. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's also why Sinners is doing so well because we haven't had a good vampire movie in a long time.
Yeah. No,
Well,
I
there is What We Do in Shadows though, and I don't know if that was a great movie. It is obviously a great TV show. The movie's also good, but not as good as the TV show. I think the movie needed the TV show to really flesh out the idea. That's probably the most recent one I can think of that has any possibility of being pretty good. But it's a comedy. It's not a vampire drama.
I mean, I saw Nosferatu in IMAX, but I already forgot about it. So that speaks a lot. I mean, it just felt like a toned down version of Bram Stoker's Dracula, to be honest.
Well, it's just I felt like it's predictable. Maybe that's because we already know the story of this character,
Yeah.
but it just I don't know, it just played out so dull. Like man obsessed with job goes to sign real estate deal and loses his wife. Like in the process. It's like what? Why what? It felt I think it felt too unrelatable. A lot of times I think when period pieces when they make pieces movies from period pieces, they find elements that can actually still relate to modern day audiences, whether it be like infidelity, and I guess Nosferatu is infidelity, but like I don't know, there's way too much I don't know, other stuff stacked on top of it that it just like why do I care about Nosferatu coming through the window and having sex with his wife? Like, he's kind of not a good person.
Which was also really fucked up in the end, the whole sex scene and everything. I'm like, oh, okay, I did not expect that. Interesting. Okay, that's how you want to end your movie. Oh, I think it's also about the good boy versus the bad boy, because in the end, the bad boy wins. Like he literally gets the girl, and like I mean, the girl is like
Well,
ready to sacrifice himself for the bad boy, and like the good boy's like, oh my god, you fucked my wife? Oh shit.
isn't that more or less the Dracula or maybe the Nosferatu story specifically? It's like, oh, the dutiful husband, but really at the end she just wants the vampire to bite her neck. Basically reads like or plays out like a cheesy romance novel. That's kind of like the movie. It's like, oh, my husband is so plain and whatever. He goes off to the mountains to do his real estate work, and meanwhile, a virile, sexy Dracula comes through my window and makes loves to me in the most harsh but also loving way that I love. That my
And I
husband
almost
can
die,
never
and I
give
pretty
me.
much die by the end of it.
Yeah, it's just like it's pretty much yeah, it's that. It's basically
It doesn't matter.
it's a cheesy romance novel in many ways. I'm sorry to anyone who likes it and takes offense to that take, but I think Nosferatu is kind of that cheesy romance, the cheesy like female fantasy romance novel, which
Yeah.
nothing wrong with it. No judgment, but I think people expected differently from that movie.
I mean, in comparison, I think I definitely like Sinners. Sinners was definitely like a level up when it comes to like just everything, just the pacing, and like I was more invested into this stuff. I think we spoke about this a while ago, and I think I told you like this is the kind of newness that we need in movies right now. It's just like people need to watch new things and like the kind of stuff that they haven't seen before, in contrast to like superhero stuff, or like as Martin Scorsese says, like theme park rides. Yeah, yeah. So it's like
Oh, sure.
we got to go beyond that. So I think this was that, which I like. Nosferatu could have been better too, and it was like a toned down version of Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I have to rewatch it. I mean, I know I enjoyed Bram Stoker's Dracula. I just have to watch it again because I just don't remember it all that well. I just remember Gary Oldman with his big hair.
Have you seen Vampires by John Carpenter, or what was it? Was it John Carpenter, or was it somebody else?
Yes, yes. I did we see that together, or I might have saw that separately.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's got the woman from Twin Peaks in it, who's
Yeah,
really great. but I saw that
Cheryl
fairly
Lee.
recently.
Cheryl Lee.
Cheryl Lee,
Yeah, I did
Cheryl
not
Lee,
know
thank
this.
you. Yes, yes. Still acting very, similar to her Laura character in Twin Peaks, but not nothing bad about it. But it's great. It was great. A little cheesy, obviously. It's not. I wouldn't say it's as refined as The Thing, which is a very like well put together movie. This is a little cheesy, and you got James Woods, who's just oozing cheesy anyways. But I enjoyed it. I really liked the movie. I thought it was entertaining for what it was, and especially the time period. Like it's pretty ambitious, and it's only 1998 in this when this movie came out. So they were working with some serious limitations.
You mean the vampires movie, right?
Yes, the vampire.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
John Carpenter's vampires. Yeah,
Yeah, dude. I mean, that was a classic. I still remember that. I think I saw this movie way back when I was like 3 years old or something. Like I had vivid memories of it, but then I just got to like there were just brief kind of like images in my head, and I was like, I was searching for this movie, and I eventually, I think when I was like 15 or 16, I got it again. And I'm like, dude, this movie is really badass. It's like one of the better vampire movies. It's kind of like a Dusk Till Dawn part like ish kind of movie, in terms of like the setting and the premise with just more characters.
for sure, for sure. And I don't know if there's just one-liner or James Woods keeps doing it, but I know the film ends pretty close to like a one-liner, which is what James Wood. I always think of James Woods anyways. So yeah, it kind of leans into its cheesiness at the same time, which I appreciate. Like I think John Carpenter knew what he was working with and leaned into that direction because I think if it took itself too seriously, it would fall flat.
Yeah, and the dude who played the vampire in this movie, what's his name? Thomas Ian Griffith. Dude, he was freaking badass. I mean, you look at this guy on the screen and you're like, yeah, that's like a badass kind of vampire. You know what I mean? It's like it would create that intimidating kind of effect, or like that, that classic 90s vampire kind of thing. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. It's like in the late 80s and the 90s, the vampire films really like did the best. I think they were the best in terms of like, especially after the Lost Boys, they really like were making a lot of these movies. And
Yes.
the guy who played the vampire, he actually looks that intimidating vampire kind of, character where you're like, oh, okay, there are some
He
stakes.
I agree he does, but I could see why like soon after once Tommy Wiseau came on the scene that you could no longer dress like this because he looks a lot like Tommy Wiseau with the long dark black hair, the like kind of black coat with mostly black attire. Like especially in this long shot I'm looking at, he looks like Tommy Wiseau. And I could see like how that like they had to like basically reinvent. I think after this, vampires, especially female vampires, became like all leather and latex and like dominatrixy dressing, if I'm not mistaken.
To be or not to be. He had a leather export business. Tommy Wiseau had a leather export business from Korea or something. And this was like a really viral kind of video that's gone, like he was the actor for that commercial. And it's like to be or not to be. It's like he's uttering the dialogue to sell leather jackets of his own or something. Like he's pretty much out there. Like it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned this point. Um,
Well, I'm looking at another shot, and he basically looks like James Franco playing Tommy Wiseau. So, like,
what?
it's all there. It's kind of all there.
What? I mean, the guy from the Vampires movie?
That's correct. I will send you the picture, and I think you will agree. But yeah, but it was regardless of the Tommy Wiseau connection.
Yeah,
It was an entertaining movie,
I
and
remember
I'm glad I saw it.
you wrapped your movie up, and I saw you like after a week or two, and then I know you were stressed out, but then you saw this movie and you were like, "I'm so happy now." You saw the Disaster Artist, I think, and you were so happy, and we're just like kind of uttering the monologues from like the different monologues, like his different dialogues and stuff like that in the movie. And yeah, dude, I mean that was something else. I think the Disaster Artist was a really good movie.
Yeah, it is. It is. It was surprisingly good because I had just seen it for the first time fairly recently, and who I was with, we'd actually then she was inspired to watch The Room, so we watched The Room, and then we watched The Disaster Artist again. So it really spoke to, I guess, both of us in that way. But yeah, it's it. Yeah, I mean, it's an entertaining piece. I mean, it's almost it's like not a parody movie, but it's he's such a ridiculous character that it is a parody in its own way. It's a parody of making a movie, in many respects, especially like the which I knew before the movie, but like the two wanting to shoot on two formats at the same time, and all just his idiosyncrasies. Yeah, it's just yeah, it's Tommy. So
Yeah.
but I was very surprised how much I liked The Disaster Artist.
I saw the image that you just sent. He does look like James Franco.
Yeah, yeah, but James Franco playing Tommy Wiseau.
Ah, yeah, right.
Put that could be the thumbnail.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's a great idea. But then this is for sinners. We spoke about sinners
That's yeah, right.
Nosferatu, and we went to vampires. I guess we'll have to be like sinners movie review with vampires plus Nosferatu, and we'll see how this conversation goes.
It's a vampire movie review mostly featuring sinners.
Exactly. But that's the title going to be. It's like a vampire movie review featuring mostly sinners.
I like it.
It started off as a Sinners movie review, but well, whatever.